Good evening, family, and welcome back to another edition of the Parent Power Podcast. Today, we are going to take a different approach to the show. It's going to be very enjoyable and very informative as usual. We're joined with just some unbelievable, awesome practitioners in our fair city, the founders of Holistic Life Foundation, who have personal contact with and working with just a wonderful group of gentlemen who really know how to help you get through your day and through your evenings and stress and all of those things that embody our lives nowadays, especially with the pandemic plus, I guess we could call it. So good to have you all in. Unfortunately, not joined by our dear brother, the face of the franchise, Brother Tyrone Barnwell, still feeling under the weather. Please keep him in your prayers and your thoughts as he starts to recover and recuperate. But tonight, you're in for a treat, as you always are. So, parents, if you're out there, please text us, join us, ask questions of these gentlemen. And we're actually going to have these gentlemen help us with a guided practice of mindfulness today. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to just ask some kind of opening questions for these gentlemen, but we're not going to pepper them all in because we're going to let them do what they do, which will inform us and help you as well. But family, as we always do, number one, our connection question. And that question on the table is, and I'll go first and I'll let our esteemed guest go second. That question is, what is the number one thing you do to de-stress? You had a stressful day, stressful evening, stressful moment. What's the number one thing that you do? And for me, it would be getting away from the situation. And if there's some tea available, having some tea. That would be number one for me, if it's possible. And I'll pass it on to Brother Andre. How about you, sir?
Yeah, so thanks so much for having us on. For real, for real. We really appreciate being here. I got an idea as what Ali Atman might say, and I don't want us all to be saying the same thing. So I'm gonna say, for me, the number one thing I do to de-stress is I just breathe. So I use my breath to slow myself down, allow myself to be in the present moment. So I don't allow what's going on to impact me so much. Instead of reacting to everything that's going on, I have a moment that I can take so I can respond to.
Thank you,
And I'll
sir.
keep it rocking and rolling.
Yeah,
Go
pass
ahead.
the mic. Pass the mic. Who you want to pass the mic to?
I was going to pass it over to Ali. He's next to me on the squares on the screen that I'm looking at, so I was going to jump it off to him.
I'd say my number one thing to de-stress. Outside of meditation, which I think we all do, I think my number one thing is getting out in nature. Just any time where I can just connect to Mother Earth, whether I'm by myself, with my kids, with my dog, however it is, that's usually the number one thing I can do to ground myself and de-stress.
I guess I'll jump on there next. Ali and Andy said, meditation, breathing, yoga, that always gets you grounded and present. But outside of those contemplative practices, I would say, walk my dog in my neighborhood. It really drops me in, and no matter what's going on in the world, I see how happy my dog is, walking and how present he is. And it really makes me appreciate, just being able to roll with him. And, hopefully I can try to be as present as he is when, he's out there sniffing all the different smells that he smells as he's walking around the neighborhood. So, that's pretty much how I get grounded and present is, walking my pup in the morning, besides, the contemplative practices.
Thank you all. And Brother Atman, some perspective there. My wife is hearing your comments in the background and clapping about taking the dog for a walk and the peace that comes with that, or not, depending on the dog, So we do really appreciate you all. Really happy to have you all because it is good for our audience to see three Black men that are going to be very open and honest about stress and how stresses and traumas can affect us all, and not being afraid to challenge it. and having positive and really life-affirming ways to go about that. So I appreciate that. Just on a personal note, I would love for one of you gentlemen to kind of guide us into the history of Holistic Life Foundation. How did it get started? I mean, I do know the story, but our audience may not. So I don't know who would like to take that first, and we'll go from there.
I'll jump on that. So you met our mom. So me and Atman's parents are a big reason why where the roots were set in and like kind of planted for the Holistic Life Foundation. Before we were born, our dad got into yoga. His best friend, who became our teacher and our godfather, was one of those people that got into yoga in the mid 60s, early 60s, and never got out of it. Our dad had a prostate issue and went to him. He showed him a couple of yoga poses, and then from our dad was hooked from there. When we were born, our mom was into Ayurvedic cooking. We were vegan growing up, like early 80s, like we were vegan back then. No sugar, no salt in the house, like stuff like that. And our dad would wake us up and make us meditate every morning. So it was something that was around us. We grew up in the church right next to Whole Foods. It's a bookstore now up on Falls Road, the Divine Life Church of Absolute Monism at the time, based on Kriya Yoga and subjective meditation. So it was around us a lot. We went to Friends School of Baltimore. The Quakers are big into presence and stewardship and diversity, things along those lines. So I think they put it around us a lot. When they got divorced, I guess I was about in the 5th grade or so. Atman was in the 3rd. We got out of all that stuff, and we weren't really meditating. Actually, we weren't meditating anymore at all. We weren't vegan anymore. And then as we were finishing up college, we met Andy at the University of Maryland College Park. Starting to question life and how we're going to spend the rest of our lives after we graduated. And just the more questions we asked, and the more research we did on what life was about, the more questions we came up with. We went to our godfather. He agreed to teach us yoga if we agreed to teach as many people as possible, because he liked his lifestyle. He didn't really want to be bothered by people. He wanted the information to get out there, and he knew that we would do it, and he could still be left alone. So, as long as we were willing to do that and get up at 4 a.m. The next morning and come work out with him and come learn from him, we were down. And then our dad stopped us from getting jobs. He was one of those people that worked in Baltimore City Public Schools for most of his working career. Other than that, it was just he was a basketball coach at University of Maryland Eastern Shore for a few years after he finished with Baltimore City Public Schools. But he was all about entrepreneurship. He had a couple entrepreneurial ventures early on in life. But none of them ever really panned out the way that he wanted them to, but he was determined that we weren't going to go get jobs. He wanted us to work hard for ourselves, not work hard for somebody else. So I think the culmination of the early yoga meditation going on in our lives, and then getting back into it and getting really deeply into it, and then a push to be entrepreneurs kind of was like the perfect storm for us to start the Holistic Life Foundation. And this was back in December of 2001. So we're a little over 20 years deep right now with what we've been doing.
Fantastic. Thank you. It's definitely some biographical information that Mama Cassie did not pass on, but it's wonderful to hear the root. We're going off script, off book, but one of the things that you said to me fascinated me. I would think of the kind of practices that you all have, maybe more so along the artistic side. I'm only saying that because art and business sometimes can have difficulty coexisting, Brother Ali. How did you all navigate those very two different realms?
So I think we've always been pretty creative dudes. I think it was something that our parents cultivated in us, was like pushing things that were going to develop our creativity. I think when you are an entrepreneur, you have to be creative, and art can be expressed in a lot of different ways, whether it's painting or music or writing, or even developing a business plan. You know what I mean? Like you got to be creative in a lot of different ways. So I think them pushing us to be creative and us, having big imaginations, like, like we walked into this thinking like we were going to be able to help the world. Like it wasn't like just we were going to start an after school program. It was like, yeah, that's our start. But, we were always really imaginative with it. So we were, I think all those things helped. And when you when you do yoga, when you do breath work, when you do meditation, like you connect to your higher self. So I think it's you're able to express creativity from a deeper place. So it's not just you thinking about being creative, like you're going to the source, and that creativity is sprouting from there.
Thank you so much, Brother Ali. And you kind of segue to my next question. When you mentioned that your roots, if you will, of being practitioners were in the after school programs. And a lot of that, of course, as we know, our kids today are dealing with a myriad of traumas that they see in their lives. And I don't know which one of you brothers want to ask, but first of all, what is trauma and how does it work? So I don't know if it's Brother Atman or Brother Andre, but please, anyone.
Yeah, I'll jump on this one. I mean, I think that if you look up like probably the definition in somewhere, it'll probably say trauma is something like a deeply disturbing experience, right? You know, and I think oftentimes people will probably not know that they've gone through traumas in their life. So there's undiagnosed traumas, there's the diagnosed traumas, and then there's generational traumas that impact people as well. So, you know, a lot of times trauma is stored in our bodies, and we may not even remember that we had faced something before because we pushed it down so deep, you know, within ourselves. So I think if everyone really were to reflect and think about some things that they've gone through in their lives, most of us have faced some form of trauma in our lives. We just may not remember it, or some of us may be dealing with it all the time. So what we try to do with Holistic Life Foundation is provide individuals with techniques and practices that they can use to help with these traumas that they face. That they're not necessarily going to heal the traumas. We don't want to say that we're healing all these traumas because, you know, in some situations you may, some you may not, because they are so deeply seated and deeply rooted within the individual. But I mean, basically, if you think of something that's really impacted you in this negative, disturbing way, that would be a trauma that you've been impacted with. And through some of the techniques, hopefully that you'll be able to experience today, when we lead you through some breathing techniques, some meditations, you'll see that maybe they'll be able to support you in your journey through life and dealing with some of the traumas that you have faced.
And to jump on you know, what Andy was talking about as far as like healing trauma, like he was saying, like we do teach, you know, breathing techniques, meditation, and we start off with physical yoga poses because, like he said, trauma gets stored in the body, and the way to release it is through physical yoga practices. And you know, we also teach breathing practices. A lot of breathing practices kind of help heal some of the neurological problems that happen with kids. You know, the trauma that they face that gets, you know, stored and physiologically changes the way their executive function works or does not work. And, you know, I think one of the coolest things besides, you know, all the different techniques that we do in our programs is we shower our participants with love. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, the gentleman that wrote the Body Keeps the Score, like it's like the Bible on trauma and the way that it gets stored in the body and the way that, you know, trauma gets played out. We asked him, or we were talking to him about, you know, the work that we were doing, and he said, yeah, the breathing, the meditation, the physical practices are all great, but the thing that, you know, can heal any type of trauma besides, you know, any brain or head trauma is that love, you know what I mean? And, you know, a lot of people, you know, for a while were talking about like, yeah, these guys are great at what they do, but it's just that they, you know, are really loving and being present with kids, but that's healing, you know what I mean? And, you know, like, yeah, besides, you know, the techniques, love is really big in what we do as far as the Holistic Life Foundation.
Yeah, and one thing we noticed early on is that a lot of the things that people were classifying as behavior issues weren't really behavior issues at all. They were trauma issues that the kids were dealing with. I mean, when Atman mentioned executive function, I mean, executive function are all the skills that you need in the classroom. You know what I mean? Being able to organize, being able to kind of self-regulate, like all those things that are going on. And kids have been traumatized, like their brains are in survival mode. They don't have access to their prefrontal cortex. So it's just like they're seeing everything as a threat. They don't have the ability to kind of do all the things that you need to do to be successful in the classroom. It has nothing to do with their behavior. It has nothing to do with their will, their like whether or not they want to be good or want to be bad. It's like their brain is in survival mode. So those are the things that they have access to. So the things that we are teaching them are helping them rewire their brain. Like, I mean, like they talk about neuroplasticity a lot, and like your brain isn't one way. Like you can rewire your brain depending upon how you spend your time mentally. And like if the kids are spending their time being angry, being stressed out, being anxious, and all these things, like that's how they're going to wire their brain to respond, or to not to respond, but to react to things in that way. And if we can give them skills to help them slow down and calm down and just take a pause before they actually respond to stuff and not be as impulsive, then that's a win. I mean, because that's setting them up for success in every area of their life.
Thank you, Brother Ali. And I wondered, as you were talking about how, a lot of our students come into the classroom, I wonder, is there a way that this message that you just gave, that very crucial message about how our students enter the classroom and the baggage and things that they have that they bring with them, I feel like those are the kind of tidbits of information that teachers should have, even maybe before, the intelligent and academics portion of how you lead a child into learning. Have you all had any of those kind of conversations, I guess, on a broad level with teachers about that? Again, I know this off script, but I'm just intrigued by the work that you all are doing.
Now, so when we go into a school, we won't just work with the students because it doesn't work well. It's not a recipe for success. Like you got to work with the teachers as well and the administrators. And the teachers a lot of times will go in and start talking to the teachers, and they'll be like, "All right, well, this is cool. I want to use this with my students." And we won't start at that point with the teachers. We always talk with self-care for the teachers. I mean, because the teachers they may not be directly impacted by the trauma that the kids that they're teaching are going through, but they're dealing with secondary trauma. They're dealing with the vicarious trauma of like dealing with like teaching the kids and being around them, and the kids are traumatized. So the teachers need something to be able to kind of relax and let that secondary trauma go. So we always start with the teachers with self-care, showing them how to take care of themselves, so they can like not be depleted. I mean, like we all know teacher turnover is hot. Like it's stressful being a teacher. Like I love working with kids, but I don't know if I could be a teacher. I mean, it's like it's a very, very stressful job, and you got to be really tough to be able to get through the school year. And then now with COVID and school getting shut down and open back up and worrying about getting sick and getting your family sick, there's a lot going on. So the teachers need tools for just to deal with their stress and deal with their secondary trauma. So when we start there, it's a lot more successful in the school because the teachers start to see, well, wow, okay, this is how this is helping me. I can only imagine how it's going to help my students. And they're more likely to teach it to their students and actually to accept us or someone from our staff working with their students when they've actually experienced it for themselves.
Thank you so much. And we do actually have our first question from Ms. Yaja. Ms. Yaja, thank you for joining us this evening. And she writes in, is your program only accessed through an after-school program, or is it accessible beyond that? I guess she, saying in addition to after-school programs. Anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, I got it. We did get a lot of highlights for our after school program, but we have in-school programs also. We were asked like what we would do during the school day to help to do like a intervention that could help kids in crisis. And what we came up with was the Mindful Moment program, where we're given a room in a school, and it's like an alternative to suspension room. When kids are in crisis, they can either self-refer, or their teacher can refer them down to the room where, our staffs it. And, when the kids come in, a lot of kids don't really have people empower them, and, they're never really listened to. So the first thing that our staff does when they come into our Mindful Moment room is we do active listening and mirroring, which empowers students We're not counselors, so we don't really can't really counsel kids, but we can mirror what they're saying so they can feel like they're being heard. And then we'll look at a note that's telling us why they're in the room. And the note is usually not really why they're in the room. Like 90% of the time, that's not really the case. Then we will have the kids come in the room, do a breathing practice or meditation. And that will kind of get them back to homeostasis, get them back grounded and present. And then, we'll talk to them about stress, the way stress plays out in their body and who their stressors are. And, we will talk to them about, next time, that stressor presents itself to you and you feel the stress playing out in your body, try this breathing practice that we just did while you're in the classroom and see if it kind of brings you back to homeostasis. And I think, one of the coolest things about that program is, the numbers of referrals are really, really high at the beginning of the year. But, our whole motto is reciprocal teaching students how to teach themselves. And, during the course of the year, the numbers dwindle down because kids are actually, catching themselves when they're clenching their fists because they're about to get stressed out. They're tightening their jaw, they're, folding their hands, a lot of different triggers, I guess, that they can pay attention to or be mindful of that they catch. And then they learn a lot of techniques in our mindful moment room. And, by the end of the year, hardly any kids go into the room because they're self-regulating. And, that's a program at Robert W. Coleman where for the past 6-7 years, there hasn't been a suspension. And, that's the epicenter of where all that Freddie Gray uprising happened. And, there's a lot of undiagnosed trauma there. And, the numbers are like that, across the board. So we have that program. We also have yoga classes during the school day, where we work with certain demographics or cohorts of students. And, we're able to do physical practices, once again, to make their bodies a safe space, breathing practices to kind of still their mind down, to quiet that internal chatter, and then teach them meditation practices that kind of get them exposed to that inner peace within. Because, a lot of their outward environment is chaotic. But if you can kind of introduce them to their a peaceful inner environment, they carry that around with them. So we have a lot of different programs, whether it's, during the day or after school.
Thank you, Brother Atman. Peace in the middle of any storm, sounds like to me. Thank you all so much. Sister Yaja says, lots of hearts for everything that Ali said earlier, and then hearts to you, Atman. And this is really, just a wonderful show. If you're out there watching, please let somebody know that the founders of Holistic Life Foundation are on. And I have one more question. I'm gonna step aside and let these gentlemen give us some guided practices. And that one question, gentlemen, is mindfulness is a word that is being used, now you could say throughout the country, if not throughout the world. How do we define, or how do you all define mindfulness? And after that, I will step aside for a guided practice.
So like you said, mindfulness is very popular. It's like the new tag phrase all the time. And at the Holistic Life Foundation, we have 3 main points that we like to stress when we're talking about mindfulness. And it's awareness, it's centering, and it's presence. So, when you become aware of yourself, how you're feeling, your mental, your thoughts, your emotions, what's going on, you become more aware of that, the scenario and situations going around you. That's very beneficial to helping you center yourself. And a lot of times when we say center, people kind of look at us like, what do you mean by centering? And I think a good way to kind of picture it is thinking about when you're off balance, so you don't feel like you're quite right. That means you're off center. So as you become more aware of yourself and your surroundings, you're able to center yourself and get into that balanced state so you can be present. And by being present, you're being in this moment right now. Our teachers constantly told us how The past can cause anger or frustration because something you weren't able to achieve. The present causes anxiety, what's to come, what's to happen. And the only real time is right now, and that's the present moment. And when you learn to live in the present moment and appreciate every single second for what it is, you really, really start experiencing life in a completely different manner where you're not worried about the past. That's always going to be the past. Even the now that I just talked about is already the past, right? And the future is never going to come, right? It's always going to be the future. We're always going to be waiting and anxious for what's to come. So the only real moment is right now. So when you're being mindful, so long as you can pick up your awareness, be able to center yourself and be in that balanced state and be in the present moment, then you'll be a mindful individual, and it'll, ideally help you out with your life.
Perfect segue into guided practice number 1. I'm excited about it. I don't know which one of you gentlemen are going to lead us, but I will step aside. And if you could just do what you do and introduce exactly what you're doing, will be a great, great benefit.
I guess I could jump in there with a variation of a loving kindness practice. In this human experience, it's just human nature to kind of love other people before you love yourself, take care of other people before you take care of yourself. And that kind of leads to a lot of negative emotions, jealousy, regret, burnout. But, if you start off with your inner foundation full of self-love and taking care of yourself, it makes it that much easier to love and take care of others going forward. I think the dopest thing about this practice is, Ali was talking about rewiring your brain or neuroplasticity. In a lot of our circles, we hang out with neuroscientists like Dr. Bessel van der Kolk and, a couple others. And, they always talked about neuroplasticity. But, with this practice, we actually see these kids rewiring their brain, and teachers, adults, whoever we're bringing this practice to, you can actually see them rewiring their brain, not right away, but eventually, because, they change the way they don't react to things, they respond. So yeah, let's jump into this practice. With this practice, you want to move to the edge of your seat, have your feet grounded, have your back, neck, and head aligned. And I invite you or welcome you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable enough. If you don't, you can just soften your gaze, close your eyes like 9/10 of the way. Or if you need to leave your eyes open, you can leave your eyes open. It's totally up to you. But, we suggest that you, if you feel comfortable enough, to close your eyes because it limits your distractions. All the breathing that we're going to be doing is going to be done in and out through our nose. We're going to take a couple deep breaths together. So everyone inhale long, slow, and deep through your nose, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And exhale, push all that air out through your nose. Squeeze your belly button to your spine. Get all that air out. Inhale deep again through your nose. Long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And then exhale once again through your nose. Push all that air out. Long, slow, deep breath. Squeeze your stomach in, belly button to your spine. Inhale deep one more time with that long, slow, deep breath, filling your stomach up with air like it's a balloon. Fill it all the way up. And exhale, push all that air out. Push it all out. Now you can just breathe on your own at a nice natural pace. Don't put any effort into it. Just make sure you're breathing in and out through your nose. And we're going to start using our imaginations. With every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the positivity that the earth has to offer us inside our body with that in-breath. Really feel and see that positivity come into your body with the breath. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out all the negativity from within, any stress, any anger, any jealousy, any resentment, any sicknesses or ailments, anything at all that's inside of us that we know that's not healthy for us. We want to feel and see it leave our body with the breath. So once again, on that inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. On that exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. Whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. And just like in life, when you try to do a loving kindness practice or a silent reflection, distractions can arise. If you do get distracted by a thought, sound, or sensation, don't beat yourself up. Just know that it's the nature of the mind. Acknowledge it, let it pass. And once it does pass, redirect yourself back to the breath. And once again, on that inhale, pulling in that positivity from the earth. And on that exhale, pushing out that negativity from within. Once again, that stress, that anger, that resentment, ailments, sicknesses, anything at all, once again, that's inside of us that we know that's not healthy for us. We're going to use our imaginations and see and feel it leave our body with that out breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time, with every inhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pulling in all the healing oxygen from the trees, plants, and bodies of water. And we want to feel and see it energize and replenish our internal muscles, bones, and organs. So with every inhale, really feel and see that happen. And with every exhale, we want to feel and see ourselves pushing out all the stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. So once again, on that inhale, pulling in that healing oxygen, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. And on that exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. And the point of this practice, silent reflection, meditation, loving kindness practice, is all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. If you can only stay focused for 3 breaths, then you get distracted. Once again, just acknowledge what distracted you, thought, sound, or sensation. Don't fight with it, just let it pass naturally. And once it does pass, redirect yourself back to the breath. And then try to get 4 breaths, then 5 breaths. Once again, it's all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And right now we're focused on that inhale, pulling in that healing oxygen, energizing our muscles, bones, and organs. And on that exhale, pushing out that stale carbon dioxide, feeding the trees and plants that gave us oxygen. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time we're going to focus on all those people that we love, whether it's our family or friends, no matter how far away they live, no matter if they're living or not, love knows no boundaries. So with our breath, all we're going to focus on is sending our loved ones love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, feel and see that as you breathe. Sending your loved ones love with your breath. With this practice, there is no right or wrong, there just is. So once again, with our breath, all we're doing is sending our loved ones love with our breath. Whatever it looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. And once again, if distractions do arise, don't fight with it. Just know it's the nature of the mind. Let it pass naturally. When it does pass, redirect yourself back to that breath. And once again, sending love to your loved ones with your breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time, we're going to focus on all those people that stress us out or make us angry, whether it's family or friends, coworkers or clients, people in our community, politicians, whoever it is that stresses you out or makes you angry. We're going to send them love with our breath. Even though they stress us out or make us angry, they probably need love more than anyone else. And we all know whatever you put out there comes back tenfold. So always lead with love. So once again, with our breath, we're going to send love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're going to send them love with our breath. This is a great way to evict people from renting space in your mind, or in other words, a release. So once again, with our breath, all we're focused on is sending love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. And once again, this practice is all about extending the time or breath so that you can remain focused. If you do lose focus, once again, never beat yourself up. Just acknowledge what distracted you, redirect yourself, and once again, try to extend the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And right now, once again, we're focused on sending love to those people that stress us out or make us angry. We're sending them love with our breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And you know, we've sent love to people that we love. We've sent love to people that stress us out or make us angry. Now it's time to send love to the most important person in your life, and that's yourself. Like I said, if you start off with that inner foundation full of self-love and taking care of yourself, it makes it that much easier to love and take care of others going forward without burning yourself out or having resentment. So with our breath, all we're going to focus on is sending love to ourselves with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Sending our self-love with our breath. And once again, if you do get distracted, never beat yourself up. Have empathy towards yourself. Acknowledge what the distraction was, thought, sound, or sensation. Don't fight with it. Let it pass. And when it does pass, bring yourself back to that breath and sending yourself love with your breath. All right, we're going to use our imaginations again. And this time with our breath, we're going to send love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within. Animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects, anything at all that resides within planet Earth or Mother Earth and Mother Earth herself. We're going to send love with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. Sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within, animals, plants, humans, inanimate objects. We're sending love with our breath. And once again, this practice is all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. If you do lose focus, once again, always have empathy towards yourself. But just remember, it's all about extending the time or the amount of breaths that you can remain focused. And it's less of a battle with yourself than it is a play. But definitely try to extend the time or breaths that you can remain focused. And once again, right now, we're focused on sending love to planet Earth or Mother Earth and all the inhabitants that reside within with our breath. Once again, whatever that looks and feels like to you, that's all we're going to feel and see as we breathe. All right, if your eyes are closed, you can keep them closed, but we're going to slowly bring ourselves away from the breath and back to our bodies. So we can start off just by wiggling our toes. We can wiggle our fingers. We can roll our ankles and wrists. You can do a neck roll both ways. You know, take your left ear to your left shoulder, back your head to your back, right ear to your right shoulder, chin to your chest, and then go the opposite way just to stretch your neck out a little bit. And then whenever you get ready, don't rush. You should never rush out of a meditation or loving kindness practice, but whenever you get ready, you can slowly blink your eyes open and come back to your senses.
Thank you, Brother Atman.
No problem.
Gonna let the moment just kind of breathe a little bit. And it's just a wonderful moment, a few moments with oneself. Do personally, again, appreciate the guided practice. And this is something, hopefully, if you all are watching, you can see how easily you could incorporate this. It does take practice, obviously. But just some practical guidance from these gentlemen here. Thank you all so much. Have about 10 minutes left in the program. Would I be rushing to do another guided practice for about 5 minutes? Or what do you gentlemen think?
Nah, we can do another practice. What y'all thinking, fellas?
How about the stress breath?
Yeah, that sounds good.
The stress breath. So, just to go on that same theme with something nice and practical, something easy for you all to use, no matter where you're at, where you're going. It's something that our teachers used to always stress with us about. A lot of times people don't have the means to roll a yoga mat out somewhere, or you're on the bus, you ain't gonna do no postures or headstands and stuff like that. So this is an easy breathing technique that all of y'all can use. We call it the stress breath. If you want to look it up, it's called the Ujjayi breath. But basically, it's good for stress. It's good for calming you down. It's good for really activating your vagus nerve, which helps with your mind-body connection. But the focus mainly here will be for stress for y'all. So it's very simple. I'm not going to go into all the details and benefits, more get you all to be the scientist and experience it yourself. The key with this technique is you need to make the breath audible. So when you hear the technique, it says close your glottis. I don't know if y'all know what your glottis is. I know I didn't know what the glottis was when we first heard this. So a way that we get people to understand how to make their breath audible is to imagine that they're fogging up a mirror. So if you take your hand, you put it up to your mouth like you're fogging up a mirror, and you go like that, right? So all the breathing is going to be in and out of our noses, though. So the key is you want to do that same thing. So you're fogging the mirror up, and then close your mouth and breathe out your nose. So it'll be like a. So when you inhale, you'll be doing that same thing. So you want to make that sound audible. That's key for activating your vagus nerve. Don't stress yourself out trying to make it audible, because this is the stress breath. It's supposed to be helping with stress, right? So it's just a key part of the breath is try to make it nice and audible when you're doing the breathing technique. All the breathing will be in and out of our noses. I'll do it as well, but you can also watch my two handsome models because they'll do it as I explain it. What you're going to do so you can see the technique is you're going to inhale through your nose. You're going to retain your breath for a second, bring your chin to your chest. Then you're going to exhale and bring your head up. And that'll be one, okay? So we'll go through like you said, we're close on time here, so we'll try to do like 5 of these real quick. At the end, I'm gonna ask you to do an internal assessment. So I'm gonna ask you to take 3 breaths on your own. This is where you're being a scientist yourself. You're gonna see how the breath impacted you individually, how it impacted your mind, how it impacted your body. So then you know that when you do this technique, this is how you're gonna feel, okay? So get yourself in a nice, comfortable position. Ideally, you wanna have your head, neck, and spine aligned, your feet ground on the floor if you can. And I invite you to close your eyes. Similar to what Atman said, if you don't feel like closing your eyes, you can close them slightly or stare at the tip of your nose, or if you want to keep them open, it's up to you. We always recommend closing your eyes just because we think it helps with focus and allowing you to be in that present moment a little more. And we'll take 5 of these together. Remember, everything in and out of our noses. Sure, try to make it as audible as possible. So everybody inhale nice and deep. Hold it, lock your chin to your chest for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, bring your head up. Inhale deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, bring your head up. Inhale deep. Hold, lock your chin to your chest for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, bring your head up. Inhale deep. Hold, bring your chin to your chest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, bring your head up. Do one last one together. Inhale, nice, long, slow, deep breath. Hold it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, bring your head up. Now I welcome you to take those 3 breaths on your own. Here you're during that internal assessment. You're being a scientist. And you're asking yourself, how does my mind feel? Is it racing or has it cleared a little? How does my body feel? Is it tense or has it relaxed? You now know that if you ever want to feel the way that you're feeling right now, all you have to do is take a few of these deep breaths, these stress breaths. When you finish that internal assessment, you can take your time, but you can slowly blink your eyes open if you had them closed. And come back to your senses. It's a very simple technique, extremely powerful. This is one of the techniques that we've been, Ali said earlier, how we've been doing this for over 20 years. And, kids that we've only worked with a few times, when we see them later down the road, this is one of the techniques that they always say, hey man, I don't be doing the bending and stretching as much, y'all, but I still be doing that breathing. And they always take a breath and put their chin down because they always remember this one. And we've had so many anecdotal stories of the impact this has had. And a reminder that I would recommend to the listeners is, a good way for you to remember to do this. And if you could, you do it at the beginning of the day and the end of your day. I know the world's so different with COVID, so it's a little different. So I don't know how many people are actually driving to work now because everything's virtual. But my car keys were a good signal for me. So I would drive to work in the morning. And before I got into work, I had to take my keys out the ignition. And that was my reminder. That was my cue. Take a few of these stress breaths. So you take a few of those breaths and leave everything that's going on at home. So you can be 100% present at work. And then when you get back in your car and you drive home, you got to take that key out the ignition again. It's like, all right, take a few deep breaths in the car, leave everything at work, so you can be 100% present with your family, your loved ones, or the people that are home there with you. This is a great technique for you to start incorporating into your lives. I know it's difficult to get that routine, but this is something that's very simple. As you can see, it only takes a few minutes, and it'll make a large impact in your life.
Fantastic, Brother Andre. Thank you so much for taking us through that. Sister Yaja says, oddly, I feel rested. And then she says, thanks. And, I absolutely agree with that. Imagine, she says, on the banks, peaceful. All right, absolutely. And I'm sure that's the idea that these gentlemen inspire. Von Banks, I'm sorry, she says, peaceful. But absolutely, we had a sample size um, of these gentlemen and their practice and how they are affecting people throughout, and young people throughout the city, and changing their lives. I would say through this practice, these daily practices that help them really get centered, really get grounded, really look at life in a totally different perspective than we're used to, slowing down and giving some peace to the moment and reflecting. I love what you said, Brother Atman, is that many people give so much of themselves to other people and they do neglect themselves when it comes to loving. And I do appreciate all of you and all of your words. Let's see here. Okay, yeah.
Just one
Yeah.
quick thing. When you were saying this was just a sample, we do have 2 free workshops coming up that we'd love to let everybody on here know about. We've got one that's Mindfulness 101 for educators. The target audience for this is teachers that want to develop their own mindfulness practice and figure out some ways to use this stuff in the classroom. It's going to be it's a 30-minute live workshop, and it's on February 10th from 6 p.m. to 6:30. And then we've got one with self-care for parents and caregivers. That one's going to be actually on February 9th from 6 to 6:30, 30 minutes live. We're going to be giving you all some practices, talking a little bit about the science behind the practice, just to give you more of a sample of how you can use it as a teacher or as a parent or caregiver. You can just go to our website and register, but that's pretty much the information on it.
Thank you so much. And if you have a link, or if you don't mind typing in the chat for us, one of you gentlemen, your website, so folks can certainly take part in that, or at least spread the word about some that may be able to benefit from that. And I'm sorry, Vaughn Banks, forgive me, I botched that all up. Our super producer Rebecca is letting me know that you are a listener. So Vaughn Banks, thank you for listening. And Vaughn Banks was the person that said peaceful. So absolutely. And so we do have hlfinc.org in the chat. If you're watching Holistic Life Foundation Inc.org, hlfinc.org, you can find the programs that Brother Ali was just speaking about there. We stole from them today, y'all. We don't steal on this show, but we stole from them today. We really benefited from wisdom, from their positive vibration, outlook, and practice just in this short span of time. Please visit them, hlfinc.org, to find out more about them, their programming. And it's been amazing, gentlemen. I really appreciate you all. Peace be with you. And I owe Mama Cassie a call, by the way. So, I got to get on that. But thank you all so much. Any final words of peace and benevolence you all want to offer?
I mean, honestly, thank you for creating this platform, and hopefully, people got something out of this, and if they didn't get something out of this one, like Ali said, we got a couple opportunities for them to dive a little deeper into the practice. But thank you for this platform.
Yeah, and just take some time for yourself. A lot of times people feel like they're too busy to do any of these practices, but I mean, these practices are survival tools. Like they're going to help you live your life at a less stressful rate, and less clutter in your mind, less internal dialogue, less negative self-talk, all those things that kind of bring you down, get you more in the present moment, which brings peace, being able to be in that present moment. And try some things out, be consistent with it. It doesn't take long, even just to commit to every day for a month, where you're going to do 10 minutes of breath work or 10 minutes of meditation. You'll notice the difference in the people around you. Notice the difference right away, but you just got to be consistent with it.
Yeah, and don't forget, y'all, love is the most powerful force in the universe. We love each and every one of y'all who's watching. Thank y'all for having us on, and have a blessed and beautiful night.
Absolutely. And as speaking of blessing, it's been a blessing to have you gentlemen on. Family, we hope that I know that you got great benefit from these gentlemen here. Please tell someone about this particular show that we have. Share it with everyone. And don't forget to keep Brother Tyrone in your prayers. Hopefully we will see him and you all on Thursday at 5 o'clock at Tyrone's house, where I will be listening and he will be talking. But anyway, folks, be at peace, have a wonderful evening, and take care of yourselves.